old, he will never depart from it. And this is the hope that we have, that what we do for children when they are young will stay with them all the way until they are adults. And really, it's an honor and a privilege to be able to raise children, because it is something, actually, they are not our children, they are God's children, and He has entrusted them to us. And so it is as though we are sharing in God's work. First of all, in His creation, that in creating them, He uses us to share in His creation, and then also to share in raising them, raising His own children. So it is an honor to raising children, not a burden. Sometimes we feel like, oh, they're a burden, they're hard work, but actually it can be considered like an honor to be raising children. So let me go into a number of points of some practical tips that I think are important that we keep in mind as we're raising children, and things to sort of look out for. The first is that our children are a little bit unique in that they are Egyptian Coptic Christians living outside of Egypt. And I think that poses a challenge for our children in terms of identity. How do they view themselves? And maybe not when they're young, but as they start to get a little bit older, heading to teenage years, how do they view themselves in terms of their identity? Do they consider themselves Egyptian? Or are they New Zealanders? Are they Coptic? What are they exactly? And they almost have this struggle because there is these dual identities taking place. They're living in a Western society, but the home and the church is a traditional Egyptian family. And so how do they view themselves and their identity? Who are they? And for us, that's easy to answer, and for our own lives, that's simple. But for kids growing up in a different society to what they're used to at home or used to at church, for example, at church, faith is normal. At school, perhaps, faith is not normal. In Egypt, it's not that much of a challenge because in Egypt, everything is aligned. Your family is Egyptian, your society is Egyptian. You have a faith. There's other faiths, but it's still faith. Whereas in Western societies, Egyptian home, New Zealand country, Christian home, atheist community. So there is this dual identities going on, and I think it's important for us as we raise our children that we make them to feel proud of their identity. Yeah, that they grow up to be proud that they are Egyptian, proud that they belong to the country of New Zealand, proud of Coptic history and heritage, but also proud to be in another country with all of its beauty. So being able to perceive themselves, all of their identities, and be happy with it, to be proud of it. And I think that's a task that needs to begin at a young age, and a task for parents to get right. I'll give you some examples of mistakes that can happen. Where, for example, parents talking at home and the parent speaking badly, for example, about Egyptians. Oh, Egyptian people, they talk too much. They, never work with an Egyptian person. And Egypt, they're backwards. They're sharaf. So this negative talk of their own country, their own culture, can make them grow up to despise their own culture. Now, the problem with that is that church is predominantly Egyptian. So if they grow up to despise their own culture, their own identity, then they will also chuck out church with it, because church will always be tied to Egyptian culture. So it's very important, and I see this a lot of this mistake happening, that kids growing up eventually despise their own identity, despise being Egyptian, therefore will despise the church with it. Yeah. So the other mistake is talking badly about the church or badly about the clergy. Oh, Abuna, he did this, Abuna did that, the servants, and we complain about the church, not realizing that the children are absorbing all of this. So the first thing is trying as much as possible as they're growing to let them feel proud of who they are, of their identity, proud of being Egyptian, proud of being in New Zealand, proud of being Coptic, proud of belonging to the Coptic Orthodox Church. Every part of it is beautiful. And that comes, I think, from positive messaging, consistent positive messaging, that everything in their life with their identity is beautiful. The Coptic Church is the best church in the world. Egyptian people, best people in the world. This country that we live in, we're so blessed to be in this country. Everything is positive, and that way they grow up loving their own identity, being proud of who they are. That gives them the strength to be able to sustain the society that they live in. The next point about trying to let them grow in the fear of the Lord is peaceful and loving home. Yeah, a peaceful and loving home has a very powerful effect on the children being attached to God. Quite simply, that love is an attractive force. Imagine a situation of a monk searching, or a novice searching for a monastery to become a monk in, and he visits different monasteries. He visits one monastery, finds that the monks there, they're all fighting with each other, and not a very nice feeling. He goes to the next monastery. He finds that the monks don't like the bishop, and the bishop is hard on the monk, and not a very nice environment. He goes to a third monastery, and he finds that the monks all love each other, and the bishop loves the monks, and they all serve each other. And there's an environment of love. Which monastery will he join? He will join the third monastery. Easy decision. Yeah, because there is love there, and love is an attractive force. And so when we want our children to be attached to God, attached to the church, attached to the family, all we need to do simply is have a home filled with love, filled with peace, because that is attractive. It's like it's magnetic. They want to be part of it. Yeah. But the opposite happens when we have a home that lacks love, we have a home that lacks peace. It repels, it pushes away. Yeah. And so this is really at the core of it, that we create an environment of love and of peace. Abuna Dawood Lame was once saying that one of the problems with children when parents are fighting is that children blame themselves. And I found that like a strange concept. Like, why would children blame themselves for their parents fighting? And so one time I had a young child coming to see me, and he told me, "Oh, my parents, they're fighting all the time." And so I thought to test Abuna Dawood Lame's theory. So I said to the kid, "Do you ever blame yourself for your parents fighting?" He said, "Yes, of course, all the time. It's my fault." I said, "What do you mean it's your fault?" He said, "Because they fight a lot about things to do with me. Mum says, watch TV. Dad says, don't watch TV. One says, do homework. No, don't make him do homework." So they're always fighting about me. So it's my fault. And that was a real eye opener for me. That when we fight as parents, children are feeling and blaming themselves. Yeah. Primarily as parents, if we can create a home filled with love and with peace, we are attracting them to everything we stand for. We're attracting them to the family. We're attracting them to Christ, who's in the family. We're attracting them to the church, which we place importance on. The next aspect is children feel satisfied. Yeah. You know that one priest once said that when we are born with two tanks, two love tanks, and we carry them around. When we're born, they're empty. And these two love tanks is one for dad and one for mum. And as a child enters the world, he's born with these two tanks that are empty. And throughout their life, the father pours his love into the father love tank, and the mother pours her love into the mother love tank. And as the child grows, the love tanks are being filled. Yeah. The problem occurs when one parent is pouring all the love, but the other tank is empty. Yeah, and that can lead to a lot of problems as the child begins to seek out that love elsewhere, and you see it manifesting in very strange ways. For example, a teenage girl who has the father love tank empty will seek out love and affection from boys at a young age. Yeah. Because there's something missing there. And so she will search it out. This is also the philosophy or the theory behind homosexuality. That a boy, for example, who never was given any love by his father, distant from his father, never having any closeness or interaction, or that boy can grow up to search out male love to replace the love that he never got from his father, and can lead to homosexuality. So it's critical as parents that we satisfy our children with love. We pour love into their tanks in order that they feel satisfied and never needing to search for it outside of the faith. The next tip, I think, to raise children in the fear of the Lord is this real quality time with the family around prayer and the Bible. We have in Sydney two young priests, Father Daniel and Father Paul, and they are brothers. And their father, Father Michael, is also a priest. So the whole family is priests. The father and the two sons, all three of them are priests. At one time I was with Father Michael, the dad, and with his wife, Tasoni Mona. And so I asked him, so what did you do in your home that do you think that contributed to both of your boys becoming priests? Like, what was taking place in your home that created that environment to make two of your sons, or both of your sons, priests? And Tasoni Mona said that she believes it was the effect of daily Bible reading as a family. That every day they got together as a family, the four of them, read scripture, and she said that the boys would always have questions, and there was a chance for their dad to explain to them the Bible. And that's it. That's her, that's her experience. That daily Bible reading created an environment where the boys would become consecrated to the Lord. So it's essential that we do that. It's a good time as a family. We get to speak about our faith. and we get to apply our faith to real circumstances that the kids are going through. The next tip is leading by example. Yeah. The worst thing that a child can experience from their parents is hypocrisy. The kids can sense it and they despise it. Yeah. When we say one thing, but we do another thing. They will then go to want to reject anything to do with what their parents have taught them because they never saw it lived out. Yeah. And I see it all the time. There's one youth in our church who I was encouraging him to dress up as a deacon. And he said, Abuna, I will never dress up as a deacon. I said, why? He said, because my dad is a deacon and I see the way he treats us at home. Yeah. I can't participate in something my dad does as a show in the church when I know he doesn't live it out in his real life. Yeah. So his father actually has created a stumbling block for his own son because of not living out what they're preaching. Yeah. Hypocrisy is one of the worst things that a child can witness. It's important that we as parents demonstrate the faith to the kids more by our actions than our words. They're much more powerful. I'll give you an example. Growing up, I remember my parents never told me, go and pray, or make sure you pray tonight. Especially once we stopped praying as a family when we were kids, after that, they never said, have you prayed? Did you pray? Make sure you pray. They never did it. However, I always saw my mum praying in front of the icon of Saint Mary every night. Yeah. She had her time. She would go, stand in front of the icon, and she would pray in the living area in front of the icon of Saint Mary. And if I was to come home and enter the house while she's there, she wouldn't turn around to say hello to me. She would just be praying in front of the icon. I walk past her. I go up to my room. What do? I'll pray. I've just been reminded by my mum standing there, and that scene of your mum praying like that every day is a powerful reminder to the children. But she never said, go and pray. Yeah. And I think that's the mistake that a lot of parents make, is that we say, oh, you have to pray, you have to read your Bible. And our kids never see us do it. Yeah. It lacks power, and it can smell of hypocrisy. So before we say anything to our children, let us really live it out. And that will have its effect on the kids more than on words. The next thing is about the use of internet, and this is one of the biggest obstacles nowadays for children is the content online, unlike anything we had growing up, and it poses, I think, the biggest risk upon our children. Social media, pornography, and these sorts of things are quite damaging for the children, and they start at a very young age. I would say even from year 4, you will have children watching pornography, boys and girls. Probably 100% of children watch pornography, and no one is immune from it. And so I think it is critical that as we want to raise God-fearing children, that we are supervising closely their use of the internet and of devices in the home. Much don't have an opportunity to view these things, starting from a young age. Filters, supervised use of technology, no screens in rooms, things like that. Last thing I would say is about partnering up with the church to raise children in a God-fearing way. Yeah, they say it takes a community to raise a person, not just parents. It takes a community. So engage the community in the way you raise your children. Engage Abuna. Let him be part of the development of your children. Invite him to your house regularly. Take the children to confession regularly. And when there's a big decision coming up, let's call Abuna and see what he has to say. Or let's call Abuna and just ask for his prayers. Or we've decided on this, let's call Abuna and ask for his blessing in this next step we're about to take. Yeah. Let's invite your Sunday school servants to the house and make a big deal about it. You know, Abuna's coming. Sunday school servant is coming. We've cleaned the house. We prepare the food. We make it a big deal because the church is a big deal. Yeah. We get the like-minded families like yourself and go on outing camps and meetings, let the kids interact together, because they will raise themselves in the community of the church, not in isolation. Yeah. So work with the church, with priests, with the servants, with the families together as one force in raising the children in a beautiful way. I'll stop at that and give you a chance perhaps to ask questions if you have any, or any comments that I haven't mentioned. And I also have the chat open if anyone puts anything in the chat.
Hi, Abuna, Rafi here. I just wanted to ask, what's your opinion of computer gaming for children? If you have a child like an 8 or 9-year-old who would spend a couple of hours a day, an hour a day playing games, do you see any risks from that, or is that something we should be more mindful of or more encouraging of?
Yeah. Look, I think there are a couple of risks with gaming that I'll point out that I see from confessions and things. The first risk is the fact that it's quite addictive. So children get quite addicted to the gaming and to the screens. It's powerful to the senses, the sounds, the visuals, the interaction. And so it's absorbing it. It can absorb the child in and become an addictive exercise for the kid. Now that's a problem, because if it becomes so addictive, it hinders their use of their time for more productive things like their homework, their study, time with the family, sports, being active. It robs them of those things as they become more addicted to the game. As time goes on and they become more addicted, it's then very difficult to pull away these things from them. Just recently, I had a parent call me. Their child is in year 10, and they are trying to pull away games from him. He threatened to commit suicide. If you take this from me, I will commit suicide. So I think the first issue is the addictive nature of it. You know, the game itself may not be a problem, but the fact it becomes addictive, I think, is the bigger problem. The second issue I think to be aware of is that nowadays a lot of the games, maybe not your children's a bit young, but as they get a little bit older, is online. So they verse each other online and have earpieces in their ears to talk to each other. And in that environment, there is often a lot of swearing, coming across people that strangers they don't know. So it opens another avenue, negative influences in their life. That's the two main things that I think we need to be careful of. So I'm not sure if that helps, Rafiq, but I have three boys, and they always try and take my phone to play games all the time, and I'm always trying to limit that. But I know the pressure is mounting, and we have to just be very creative in reducing the amount of time they have with these things because of the addictive nature.
That's great. But it would be helpful in this case to set a time limit, maybe. You're allowed to spend 1 hour or some whatever on gaming per day, rather than do a cold turkey on them and just say none whatsoever.
Yeah, I think a time limit. Also, another idea is that the game is not theirs; it's the house's. So when you come to remove it from them, they don't say it's mine. You can't take it off me. No, it doesn't belong to you. It belongs to the house. It's also not a given, but it's a privilege. So you do your homework, you do your reading, you've done your sports, you've done everything, you've prayed, you've done everything. Okay, then you get half an hour with the game, and then it's removed again. It's not fully in their control. It's in the control of the parents, and given and removed as a privilege if they've earned it, and if they don't comply, it's removed. And I think if the rules are very clear like that, it's helpful.
That's great advice. Thank you.
Thanks, Rafiq.
Hello, Abuna. Medhat speaking here.
Hi, Medhat.
Hi, Abuna. I have a question, Abuna, regarding your comment about encouraging the kids to pray.
Yeah.
My kids, personally, I'm talking about my personal experience, they often resist praying. Like they don't want to. They are always busy, or they feel busy with other things. We can set an example and pray in front of them, but without encouraging them to pray, I'm not sure what alternatives we have apart from asking them to pray. Is it enough to just show them that we pray? What if they don't pay attention to that? What if they don't follow that? How should we behave there?
Yeah. Do you mind if I ask how old the children are, Medhat?
I have an 11-year-old and a 6-year-old.
Yeah.
They do pray, but we're under a little bit of encouragement and sometimes pressure.
Yeah. I think at the young age like that, family prayer is really nice. And it's not an option. They have to join. We're all as a family getting together, maybe in a nice part of the corner of the house where there's an icons and a little family altar. And it's our daily routine. At a certain time, we get together as a family. And it's good, I think, to make it enjoyable for the children, that it's not too long. Sometimes we make our prayers too long and they get bored or frustrated and they get turned off. But something short and that they are leading and participating in. For example, the 11-year-old prays the introductory prayer of the Egbeya, and the 6-year-old prays the Our Father and Psalm 1. Then we sing a song, then we pray our own personal prayers, and that's it. So that the idea is that they are the ones leading, and it's not too long, and it's a time all together as a family. That's a pleasant time. I think once they're a bit older, that's when we can't pressure them, and we give them their space, but lead more by example. But I think at this stage, definitely family time in prayer is the way to go.
Abuna, may I share an experience about this?
Please.
My personal experience, Medhat. I'm 40 years old now, and I don't remember a single night or a single day that I didn't see my parents pray. الصبح لازم الصبح وبالليل. They've never told me to, and I was never, even till a teenager, I was never consistent with praying, and I had my times away or closer to God. But now I'm a 40-year-old man, and just seeing them, I remember that it's affecting me a lot, and it's affecting how I behave at this age a lot. And it has, at the end of the day, it's a personal decision to to come closer to God and to practice praying. But that effect, that image that I saw until now, I mean, during Christmas we stayed, at the States with them. It's still the same thing. So after 40 years, it's still the same thing. It's really influential. So that model, Medhat, I'm sure you're setting أولادك ملايكة. بس that even if it doesn't get its way now, make sure it's got a lasting effect.
Yeah, no, thanks for that, Michael. I agree 100%. I mean, it's very powerful for the kids to see their parents in a certain way.
I have a question, or more like I need advice. So our son, who's 8 years old, he really, really wanted to be a deacon. And when Amba Raphael came to visit, he ordained him a deacon. And he was very excited about it at the beginning and very, very keen. But 1 week after another, he started to complain that the Mass is too long and that he has to stand for too long, and that it's starting to be a bit repetitive. So now it's a bit like, oh, I don't really want to be a deacon today. I just want to go and play with my friends. It's too long. My legs hurt. So how do we get him back into, liking being a deacon and getting excited about it again?
Yeah. How long is the masses usually?
About 3 hours.
Okay.
3 and a bit.
Yeah. So he's got a good point. I think it's way too long. Yeah. I personally would be too tired in 3.5 hours of a mass. So it's way too long for children. For example, at St. Mark's Church in Sydney, our kids' mass is 1 hour, and that's more than enough for a child. But maybe one way is that he just gets dressed up as a deacon for a certain part. Like he goes as a certain section of the liturgy, and then that's it. He comes to you and takes off his tunia and gets a break with his friends maybe. The other thing is participation. The kids love participation. So, being able to go in the altar and read something or say a response, the kids really enjoy participation. So if you can arrange with the deacons that he does something every now and then, he will like it. But the time and the standing is a real problem. That it may be just a portion of the liturgy.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
That's all right.
Honesty is really key in having a good relationship with the kids. But you can start noticing with the variety of kids, like that they exaggerate or start saying like they call it like a small lie that to get themselves out of trouble. How can you, or what's the best or an advice that you can actually try to mitigate this, or try to implement in them that won't worry regardless of the consequences, just say it?
Yeah. Well, look, I think that most kids will lie because they want to get out of trouble, or they fear the consequences of their actions, and so they will lie to escape that. So I think to reverse that, we need to let them feel that if they are honest, then there is no punishment. Yeah. So honesty will cancel out the wrong that they have done. So if let's say they've stolen some money, and then you say, "Did you steal the money?" And if they say the truth, then that good action of saying the truth cancels out the wrong action of stealing, and back to all good. Yeah, I think that lets them feel that they can always be honest because it's a good thing and it gets them out of trouble. The honesty gets them out of trouble, and not the opposite. they think honesty will get them into trouble. No, honesty gets them out of trouble. And I think time and time again, they will quickly begin to realize that being honest is the way to go, because I get rewarded, I get out of trouble, and it sets a new way of functioning for the children to think of it differently. But if they know that if they've done something and dad's gonna lose the plot and then hit and then of course they're gonna lie.
I also sometimes feel like, especially when it comes to the 5 and the 6 years old, they cannot differentiate between actually a lie or just saying it or dodging it. They don't mean. There's a couple of occasions now I'll say to my son, hey, don't say the truth, don't lie to me. I feel sometimes the word lie is not, it's he doesn't understand it. But he at the same time, when I dig deeper, he actually didn't mean it. He was actually saying it in a different way. So it's I just feel like you just have to be really careful when we say this word to them. It's because it's, in a couple of occasions, yes, I felt that they actually don't mean it. It's just it happened that he was saying it in a different way or from his imagination.
Yeah, that's right.
Abuna, I had a question actually. When you talked about pornography, it kind of scared me a bit. My daughter is turning 9 soon, so she's in year 4. And what's the best way, I guess, to kind of keep an eye and without being too controlling, and making them feel it's not safe for them to say whatever they want to say or do what they want to do in front of us, kind of thing?
Yeah, look, I think that what happens really is kids at that age at school, they start talking. So somebody will say to the kid, to her friend, oh, if you search on Google the word sex, have a look what will come up. Yeah, so they will go home and they will try it. They'll Google it, and once they see these images, is very powerful, very powerful image that they will be drawn back into, and they will keep searching these things out of curiosity, then find them quite attractive and continue to pursue them. And then with time, you have developed an addiction to these things at a very young age. So I think, practically speaking, the only thing we can do is have full vision of what we're doing with any technology. Yeah. Any use of the computer or of the phone or of the iPad needs to be in front of you. They can't take the computer to their room. They can't phone off into the corner in the lounge room. It has to be fully in view. And with that, then they have an opportunity. And even if they have a quick chance, enough to become something that is addictive or they keep on doing. Yeah. The mistake I always see with the young children who are addicted to these things is that parents leave them with a device in their room, for example, overnight. Parents are asleep, the child is in the room with the iPad and under the cover, watching as much as what they want for hours. Yeah. That's the mistake that I think parents are making, is not realizing the danger that's there and giving them full access. Even when they're older, I think if we set rules while they're young and say things like, rule of the house, no screens in rooms, any use of any screen needs to be in the living area. This is the technology zone of the house. Outside this zone, there's no technology. And we can be honest about the reason. Online, there is bad stuff, and we are all protecting each other. And that's I think the only thing we can do, as well as like online filters and things like that to be a first line of defense.
Thank you, Buna.
Yeah.
Abuna, just another question. Barbara's question made me actually think of this. What's the best way to address? I mean, what I'm finding is the kids are coming across these things at a really, really young age. The other day, my 5-year-old daughter came to me and asked me, "Mom, what's gay? What does gay mean?" Because she heard kids saying it around. And I paused for a minute and I thought, is she too young for an answer? But if I don't give her an answer, she might go and ask someone else. So I have to come up with an explanation. So I did explain to her, but in very simple terms, that sometimes people who don't know God, and a boy can marry a boy or a girl can marry a girl, but this is not something that God teaches us is right. It's not something that God would like us to do. What I struggled with is I mean, what I can see happening is the questions are going to keep coming, but they're so young, and what I'm struggling with is coming up with answers that are fit for their age. How much detail? But at the same time, I don't want to say, "You're too young, I'm not going to tell you," or, you know, "You don't need to know this," because I know they're going to go and ask someone else, and I don't want that. I'd rather it comes from me, where I have control over the information. Then it comes, like the other day, we had the news on, and sometimes they talk about cases of, you know, crime, sexual assault and things like that, and I could just see my son coming to me saying, "What's sex?" And I could see it happening, and I just managed to turn the situation around so that he doesn't think about it. But I know that one day, because the word flashes everywhere, one day I'm going to get asked about it, and I have no idea how to answer that question. Not for an 8-year-old or a 5-year-old. So how do we address these situations?
Well, look, I think first of all, I think you know, we need to, in our responses, make them feel quite comfortable to ask. And I think the way you handled that situation was really good, because you didn't say, "Where'd you hear that? Why? What? Who? What? Why are you saying that word?" And like a strong reaction makes them step back a bit and think, "Hey, these things I don't ask my parents about." Yeah, we don't want to get to that point where they say, "No, I'm not going to go to my parents for these kind of questions." So I think the reaction, which is not looking shocked, you know, first of all, like you did, which is makes them first of all comfortable to be able to come and ask and discuss. Secondly, I think that it's an opportunity, like you took. It's an opportunity that we teach them the right way to think about these things. And so from an early age, they're hearing the right messaging of these core topics. So even if a child comes and says, "What's sex?" for example, and you say that when a man and a woman get married, this is the way they show love to each other, you know. And so from a young age, they know that this is something for marriage. It's not something outside of that. So I would look at it in an opportunistic way, that it's a chance to chat, a chance to give them the right information, of course, without details that are disturbing for them at that age, but just generally speaking, not looking shocked and taking it on as an opportunity to talk about these things. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Abuna, I have a quick question. Since we are living in a mostly atheist society in New Zealand and the Western world in general nowadays, I quite often get worried that our kids one day may turn to atheism. And we have seen some in our society, even in our church community, we have seen some youth turning to atheism. What do you think the best way to be prepared for that, or to prevent this from happening? We are, of course, all of us, we are trying to do our best, being good role models for Christianity and taking the kids to church and all that. We are trying our best to do it. But quite often I feel quite worried. The kids will one day grow up and they will say, you have been leading us just by your background, because you are coming from Egypt, you have a Christian parents, who are leading us to the same beliefs. What's the best way you think we can be prepared for that?
Yeah, no, you're right. It is a big risk facing children growing up in Western societies. But the one area that I didn't discuss, which I think is important here, is their friends. When you have young children, the most powerful influences on their life are the parents. And so at this young age, you are influencing them in a positive way. As you said, we take them to church, we have a home filled with love, with peace, which we attract them to. We teach them the Bible and to see Abuna. We immerse them in the church's life, but that influence takes you up to a certain age. After that, the amount you can influence a child begins to reduce as they get older. But what then starts to pick up is the influence from their friends. So I think sometimes that transition goes wrong. As parents, we influence well, but when it comes to their friends, if they've attached themselves to the wrong friends, then what is now influencing their life could be friends in the wrong direction. So I think a key factor here is ensuring that they have good Christian friends around them, that this influence of God in their life continues on with their friends. That's the power of Sunday school, the power of your families together, doing things together, so the kids are growing up with like-minded friends. In Sydney, we are fortunate to have a Coptic school, a couple or 3 Coptic schools, so the children are growing up with friends that are Coptic. That helps a lot. I think there is risk when children's main friendship groups are outside of the faith. Yeah. So if we can play an active role in their friendships, then that would be a big help.
Thank you, everyone. That helps. Thank you very much.
It was a really good session, Abuna. I know we're holding you up, and you probably it's past dinner time.
And sorry to all of you for joining late and things like that. But it's been a pleasure to see you all, and ask for your prayers, please, for us.
Yeah, it was a great. Thank you so much, Abuna, for your time. We really appreciate it, and we hope one day you can make it here. We can have one of those children messes.
No, that sounds lovely.
Okay, for anyone else has a question for Abuna, and then we'll leave him go in peace.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much, everyone. And,
thank you, Abuna.
Keep us in your prayers. We're going to see face to face soon.
Yeah. Thank you, Abuna.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.